Welcome everyone to Color Commentary. We are your pauper commentators, Michael Pitchick and Adrian Barzales. How's it going, Adrian?
Pretty good, Mike. How about yourself?
Not bad. Enjoying the very, very wee hours of this weekend.
It's been raining in Austin a lot.
It has, really?
Yeah, it's been raining for a week straight.
Oh, because of the runoff from the hurricane, right?
I don't know. I guess.
I don't know enough about meteorology, but
Yeah.
a hurricane happened and it rained here as well. We got one day where we literally couldn't leave the office for the entire work day, and thankfully
Nice.
it cleared up before the end. But things are going pretty good here. But
Good.
enough about us and our weeks. We've got a set review to do. The perennial favorite, Guilds of Ravnica, was fully spoiled on Wednesday. We're recording an episode to talk about the cards from the set, and as usual, we have excluded any reprints and any vanilla creatures, and this time we're also excluding functional reprints that we don't think are notable. So we've got 72 cards to tear through, and let's dig into this.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll introduce something that is almost what a thing that you asked for, Blade Instructor. So Tuna White gets you a 3/1 with Mentor, and there are 4 new abilities in the set. The 5th one's a returning one. Mentor is whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. So Adrian, we talked, I think it was last week even, about the possibilities for Mentor and Pauper, and you had suggested something in this vein, but a little bit more powerful. Do you think that this actually helps out white decks and Boros decks enough and is playable?
It's interesting in the soldier deck, Mike, but I think it is unplayable. 1 toughness is a huge liability because of the prevalence of trickery in the format, and I think 3 mana is a little bit too much.
Would you have taken this at 2 mana or as a 2/2?
I think the 3 power is way more relevant on the mentor creature, but I don't know. It would have to be cheaper. The card is just it does the effect, but it's just not good enough at it. But what I do like about Mentor, the way it wound up, is mentor cards can mentor other mentor cards, and then you can then in turn mentor other cards. So I do like the mechanic as a limited mechanic. I think Boros is going to be very good in limited.
Yeah, I mean they were pretty good the last go around at Ravnica, so it definitely seems like a very synergistic archetype. And I do also, for what it's worth, like the flavor of Mentor. The fact that it's a creature training another creature, but the creature can't train it past its own abilities. I don't know.
Right.
I think that's kind of neat. But yeah, this was close to the thing that you had talked about in last week's episode, but I don't think that this is quite good enough. Why don't you
next?
Yeah, why don't you take our next one?
We've got Candlelight Vigil, 3 and a white, gets you an enchantment. Enchanted creature gets +3/+2 and has vigilance. I think this is probably unplayable.
4 mana is a lot. That's I can't see this seeing play with the fact that it's a fairly minimal pump for the cost, and vigilance is not that great.
Yep.
Next up, we have Healer's Hawk, which is a white mana for a 1/1 flying lifelink bird. All right, how many keywords do they have to staple onto a 1/1 for 1 before it's playable?
I just mentioned how 1 toughness is a liability, but I think people are actually pretty hype on Healer's Hawk. I don't think it's a bad card. I just think that it gets outclassed very quickly by other things that you can do in the format. But people have played Morning Thrall in the past, right? So I think if Morning Thrall is playable, this card's playable.
Yeah, I think the big thing about this is if you're playing something like, say, Mono White Heroic, it feels okay there just because you're going to be able to slap some auras onto it, or even in some sort of deck with a bunch of equipment, just anything to make this thing bigger, because it's an already evasive body. The lifelink helps you in any sort of race scenario. I don't know. I think this is right on the cusp of being a really, really good 1/1 for 1 with 1/1 for 1 French vanilla.
Yeah.
That said, I can't really see any home for this. Do you think white aggro decks want this, or Like outside of
maybe
heroic, because heroic has a very specific kind of go tall play style.
it could maybe be a sideboard card against like burn or something. I could see that.
All right. What about this next one?
Up next, we've got Hunted Witness. When so, excuse me, W for a 1/1 human. When Hunted Witness dies, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. I think that this card is worse than Doom Traveler because I think the flying is more relevant than the lifelink. But
I think you're right.
But that being said, it's a fine card. I just think it's a little bit too low impact.
I mean, I guess, is there any deck that would want to play, like, could you toss this in a, say, black-white aristocrats thing if that's something you were building?
Yeah, if that's a deck that could be a thing, then now you have more creatures that do something when they die. You'd have 4 copies of Doom Traveler, 4 copies of this creature, I imagine. So I could see it being something like that, where you just needed 4 extra copies of the Doom Traveler effect, and then your deck is viable. I'm not saying that deck is real. I'm just saying, like, if that was your thing,
if you cared more about the 2 bodies for 1 card than the actual bodies that are being generated, I feel like this could be a pretty good slam dunk.
Yeah.
Now, just as kind of a hypothetical, I was thinking about this. Would this card be better or worse if it made a 1/1 with first strike?
Better.
Yeah,
I think it'd be better.
That's kind of the thing. I think, like, now that we've seen 2 versions of this effect, the amount of time before we inevitably see some type of first strike take on this effect is like there's in my mind, it's an if, when, not if.
So the funny thing about lifelink, right, is lifelink is bad until it's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I know what you're trying to kind of convey here. Like, just the 1/1 non-evasive body with lifelink feels a little anemic.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next up, we have Intrusive Pack Beast, which is 4 and a white for a 3/3 with vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, tap up to 2 target creatures your opponents control. I'm not a fan.
I like the card a lot, but it is not playable. I think the flavor is good. I like the creature. I like the vigilance. I like that it will be used as a curve topper in aggressive decks and limited probably, but the card is not good, and we cannot play it in pauper.
It seems pretty great in limited, like, especially if you're, as you mentioned, in an aggressive deck. If you hit 5 mana and you just slam this thing to get in those last couple points of damage by tapping down their stuff, that seems really solid. But
unfortunately, we are not a limited podcast.
5 mana is just 5 mana's got to do a lot for you. What's next?
Up next, we got Ledev Guardian, 3 and a white, gets you a 2/4 with Convoke. Again, not very impressed.
No, and Convoke seems to be pretty tame in this set, I've noticed.
Yeah, there's nothing. Basically, it feels like what they did with Convoke is you have all these cards like normal mechanics, and then they just cost way too much. And that's actually a big complaint I've had with the set. Honestly, is it feels like so many of these cards just cost too much to really see play in pauper. Sure, it's fine for standard. I'm sure it's fine for limited, but in our format, by and large, I just think that a lot of these cards don't cost 1, 2, 3 mana. They cost like 4, 5, 6. It feels like.
I think part of that is also the fact that, having looked at this set and whether or not you agree with this philosophy or not, I know that Wizards is very draft focused when it comes to lower rarities, and it kind of feels like they acknowledged the fact that with a guild gate in every pack, these games are going to play out a little bit slower. So I feel like maybe they were like, it's a little bit more realistic that someone could get to 4 or 5 mana and want to be doing these things because the opponents don't have amazing threats. But I don't know. It's kind of all over the place. But yeah.
We got next.
Next up, we have another Convoke creature. We have Loxodon Restorer, which is 4 white for a 3/4 with Convoke, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. This is... I think this is just worse than Lone Missionary.
I think so, too. I think the 2 mana is more relevant than being a 3/4.
Well, yeah, and even with the convoke aspect of it, like I don't think that saves this from being anything more than like a 6 mana kind of do nothing.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. What's up next?
Up next, we have Parhelion Patrol, and I actually do like this card. 3 and a white gets you a 2/3 with Flying Vigilance and Mentor. If it cost 1 less, I would say very playable. At 4 mana, kind of a stretch, but I think the fact that it's evasive and has vigilance shores up its high cost. And then I just want to make the mentor mechanic work, I guess. That being said, I don't really think it's going to be played.
So if this was 1 less, where would you be looking to play this?
Well, it is. Oh, it's a knight, not a soldier. I think it could be played in like a white weenie deck. I think you could maybe toss one into Boros just to try it out. But I think primarily you would see it in a white, like a mono white tokens build or a mono white aggro build to help pump the team in the late game, like slowly gain some advantage.
I mean, Boros's flex slot is usually the 4 mana assorted spell.
But
so
I think Battle Screech is a lot. Battle Screech and Palace Sentinels are a lot stronger than this card.
yeah, this one's very close though. I do think if this was at 3 mana, this would be playable. Because that 2/3 body is pretty solid, and the fact that it's got vigilance, as you mentioned, which I didn't actually notice on the first pass through while I was editing our doc, that the vigilance makes it a lot better.
Yeah, it makes it very appealing.
All right, next up we have Sworn Companions, which is 2 and a white for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink.
Is lifelink and 1 extra mana worth the cost of this not being an instant? Because
probably not.
Right, the immediate parallel is Raise the Alarm.
So my thought with this is, like, yes, there is the soldiers deck, and we are going to reference that quite a bit because that is a recurring creature type in Ravnica as a setting. But the fact that Raise the Alarm can be cast at instant speed just opens up a world of opportunities for you. It makes it so you can get your opponent if they swing in with a 2/2 on the ground. It means that you can leave mana open for other forms of interaction on your opponent's turn. It's significantly better than this sorcery speed make a pair of 1/1s.
Exactly.
What's up next then?
Up next we have Take Heart, which is an instant. W, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You gain 1 life for each attacking creature you control. Not very impressed.
So they've been trying a bunch of takes on this lately. I don't know if you've noticed the recurring, like, 1 white mana, something gets +2/+2, and then there's upside after that. But I don't think Take Heart is the one that's breaking anything.
No, I think it's a little. I don't think it does enough.
Yeah, like even against, like, I mean, if you were playing like a white aggro deck, maybe this could be in the sideboard for burn. Because if they're pointing burn at your creatures as removal, they're probably not threatening your life total. But if they are pointing burn at your face, you likely have a decent amount of creatures out, and that way you can Take Heart and kind of mess up the burn math. But just something to think about.
Yeah. What's up next?
10th District Guard, 1 and a white, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +0/+1 until end of turn. I think this is honestly trash.
Yep, it's not good.
Yeah. How about you just take us into the beginning of the blue cards?
First up, we got Capture Sphere. 3 in a blue. Enchantment Aura. Flash. Enchant creature. When Capture Sphere enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step.
Okay, so we've seen effects like this before. 4 mana though.
We just have so much hard removal in the format. It's hard to justify a soft removal spell like this.
Yeah, and even it's one of those things where there are ways around this. They're not usually great, but the fact that this can be interacted with in a larger amount of decks, like white decks can remove it, green decks can remove it. I guess black and red don't really have any way to deal with it. Blue can pounce this, but as opposed to like a lot of removal spells, which generally require a counter spell. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of this thing. Next up, we have Dazzling Lights, which is blue for an instant. Target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn, and it features the second of our new mechanics, Surveil. So Surveil, in this case, 2, is look at the top 2 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest on the top of your library in any order. So it's a scry that instead of going to the bottom of your library, goes into the graveyard. And Dazzling Lights is not really wowing me.
Yeah, I think there are good Surveil cards, which we will get to take a look at, but Dazzling Lights I do not think is among them.
Yeah, even with the Surveil, this is a pretty crummy effect. It's maybe a fog on one creature.
Up next, we've got Devious Cover Up. UU2 gets you an instant counter target spell. If a spell is countered in this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. I mean, shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. So I actually don't hate it. That's pretty unique.
It is. So we had Countermand, which is kind of the opposite of this. It counters a spell and then mills someone for 4. And I think this is significantly better. The 4 mana is a bit of a buzzkill, but if you're, I mean, this is, I have to imagine the only deck that would want to play this is like the oversized teachings decks, because it lets them restock their library a little bit.
Right. I do like that element. It is an interesting element.
Yeah, and also I do want to touch on this. A lot of these cards have a lot of words on them for commons.
Yes, I think the complexity of the commons in this set is a little higher than usual.
Yeah, and that is good for us in general. Like, more complex cards generally are more powerful on average. So this is not a case of that. I don't think that this is super playable, but it's nice to see. Next up, we have Dimir Informant, 2 and a blue for a 1/4, and when it enters the battlefield, Surveil 2. So kind of a distant cousin of C8 Oracle.
I'm not really a fan.
You're not really a fan? You just think the Surveil 2 doesn't do enough?
Yeah. I guess it remains to be seen just how powerful that mechanic actually is. But a 1/4 for 3 doesn't seem great. And with Seagate Oracle, you actually get the card, right? With Surveil, you get to put them into your graveyard. I mean, maybe there's a deck that would rather do that, but I'm just having a hard time thinking of a deck that wants this specific creature and that ability. I think there are stronger Surveil cards.
I have to admit, I'm a little surprised that we didn't see this as basically a Omen Speaker. The 2 mana 1/3 that scries 2. I think
that would be better.
I kind of expected that, and I actually was talking with some people, and like, I know they're going to do some riff on Omen Speaker, but I think pumping it up by a mana and giving it a point of toughness as the reward for that isn't where this style of effect wants to be. All right.
Up next, we got Leapfrog. 2 and a blue gets you a frog, which is actually got really great art. Leapfrog, it's a 3/1. Leapfrog has flying as long as you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. I don't think it's that. Yeah, not strong enough.
No.
What do you got next?
But the art is very adorable.
Yeah, the art's great.
Next up, we have a spell. It's Maximize Altitude. It's a blue for a sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn, which is not exactly wowing anyone. But it also has the Izzet League's mechanic for this set, Jumpstart. So Jumpstart reads, you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs, then exile this card. So the midpoint between flashback and retrace. And before we get into this card in particular, how do you feel about Jumpstart? Because I've seen some very mixed reactions.
I think it is a strong mechanic. I do not know if they printed any cards that break it.
I don't think they did, but I'm glad to see a variant of flashback in this set. Now, this one in particular, so being able to flash this back for blue and an extra card.
Well, so I think the idea with Jumpstart is that you could discard another Jumpstart card or a card with flashback and more constructed type sets. But I think the dream is you discard another Jumpstart card or a land or something you don't need.
Yeah, and this one is not blowing my socks off. We've got stuff like Artful Dodge if you really need to make a creature evasive. if this was,
want to cast and specifically want to cast the spell a second time, or there's also the rebound one.
yeah, if this was an instant, I'd feel a little bit better about it, just in the ability to kind of jump a ground creature on your opponent's combat step. But even then, I'm not, tearing down the doors for this. How about you tell us about our almost a Muldrifter that we've got here?
Oh, next up we have Muse Drake. 3 and a blue gets you a 1/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Hard pass.
Yeah, hard pass on this one. It seems fine for limited, but we just have
like a filler card. Yeah.
Yeah, like this seems like something that you're not upset to play in limited, but
Yeah.
in our format, no. We just have stuff that's a better rate than this. And next up, Passwall Adept is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 with 2 and a blue. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So this is a pretty solid upgrade over, I want to say it's Coral Helm Guide. There was another creature that did this. Target creature can't be blocked this turn at common, and it was like 5 mana. So this is better than that, but
yeah, not very excited.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking of a deck that wants to cast this creature, have it stick around, and then make stuff unblockable.
Up next, we've got Radical Idea. 1 in the blue gets you an instant. Draw a card. It also has Jumpstart. Kind of a riff on Think Twice, but I think Think Twice is better.
I do think Think Twice is probably better than this. That said, this is cheaper the second time around. So maybe this is Think Twice
That's
number
true.
5.
Yeah.
Because you
really
could even like pitch a Think Twice to this if that was what you wanted to do. But yeah, again, like these Jumpstart cards play well in graveyard strategies that want to cast spells. Next up, we've got Unexplained Disappearance. It's 1 and a blue for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Surveil 1. So unsummon with Surveil 1 tacked on for an additional generic mana. We feeling this?
I think 2 mana is a bit much.
Yeah, this kind of feels like one of those things where you kind of wish it could be 1.5 mana.
Yeah.
But sadly, not a thing I can see them implementing anytime soon. What's next?
Little girl, it's half a mana.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Vidalcan Mesmerist. 1 in the blue gets you a 2/1. When Vidalcan Mesmerist attacks, target creature and opponent controls gets -2/-0 till end of turn. I don't think we're playing this card ever.
No. Just doesn't do enough. It's a piker with minor upside, but not a good card does that make. Next up, this was actually the card I should have compared to Muldrifter. So Watcher in the Mist is 3 blue for a 3/4 spirit with flying. When it enters the battlefield, Surveil 2. So how far are they going to push the 5 mana 3 power flyer until we finally want to play them?
This card is close.
It's
I think
real
this card
close.
I think this card is very close. If this card cost 4 mana, I think it'd be a slam dunk.
Oof! If this costs 4 mana, I would be very excited.
It'd be very pushed, but I think it'd be good to play. As is, yeah. I mean, 5 is just so much. And to not be drawing, just straight up drawing 2 cards. Also, I think an underrated part of Muldrifter is the fact that you can evoke it. I know that's not really the ideal scenario, but you can.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever getting something that beats out Muldrifter for the 5 mana flyer with card advantage or filtering, but I think that this is at least in that neighborhood. It's
it's very close.
Yeah, because we've been getting like the 3/3 with flash or like all these like very close kind of 3 power 5 mana flyers, and I think that this is almost there, just ever so gently not. All right, what do we have next?
Up next, we got the Barrier of Bones. B gets you a 0/3 with Defender. When Barrier of Bones enters the field, Surveil 1. I do not think we will be playing this either.
I don't think so.
And this is our first black card.
This is our first black card. So I think this is, again, kind of a limited, almost filler card, but it definitely plays a role in limited. It's just not doing anything here. Like, even the one deck that cares about defenders doesn't really want this thing. All right. And from that, we move on to another startlingly uninspiring card, Deadly Visit. 3 black gets you a sorcery, destroy target creature, Surveil 2. and this is kind of where removal's been for a minute now, I guess. Common removal is 5 mana and sorcery speed, and it's not very good.
Nope. Let's talk about this next card, which I actually am excited about. Mephitic Vapors. 2 and a black gets you a sorcery. All creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. Surveil 2. I like this card.
I do too. So the obvious comparison is Nausea or Shrivel.
Is the Surveil 2 worth the extra mana? I think it will be in some decks. Some decks that are a little slower. Maybe they don't care as much about firing that off on turn 2. I think this card can replace the 2 mana ones just for the fact that it also has some card advantage, or virtual card advantage.
Yeah, and for adding 1 mana and adding Surveil 2, I feel okay about.
Yeah, if it was Surveil 1, I don't think it'd be that much better, but I think at 2, I think that's pretty good. Maybe because I guess ideally with Mephitic Vapors on turn 3 and then turn 4 you could play a Gurmag Angler in the deck that wants to play this.
Okay. I was actually thinking about it as this strikes me as something that you'd want to play in a more controlling or mid-range deck, and the decks you'd want to bring this in against, because I do think that this is mainly a sideboard card, the decks you'd want to bring this in against are likely applying pressure to you and being able to filter out potentially dead draws. So like if you can snap off the Mephitic Vapors, slow them down, and then dig a little bit to make sure that you're seeing other stuff that's going to be relevant in the matchup, I like that aspect of it quite a bit.
I think it's a powerful effect. And I think, again, it's really going to really depend on how powerful is Surveil really going to be. But this is the first card where I look at it, I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a thing, because there are decks there are black decks that just want to do that anyway.
Yeah. And also this is going to look gorgeous in foil.
Yeah.
All that blue. All right. Next up, this was one of the earliest spoilers we got, Moodmark Painter. It's 2 black for a 2/3, and it features the Golgari Swarm mechanic. It's Undergrowth. So Undergrowth is just an ability that cares about the number of creatures in your graveyard. And in Moodmark Painter's case, it reads, when Moodmark Painter enters the battlefield, target creature gets Menace and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And boy howdy, let me tell you the good word about Tortured Existence.
Do you think it's okay? I think 4 mana is quite a bit, but in Tordax you can probably recur this somehow. You don't have to play it till you're planning on winning the game, is the other thing.
It also grants Menace, which I think is not to be underrated. Like, yes, you can't kind of use this as a combat trick, but you can...
I think when you play this, you're trying to win the game.
Yeah. I think if this... Another way you can conceptualize this is like treating this kind of as if it's like a pseudo ball lightning, because it's just making this one creature really huge for a turn and then that buff goes away. And I've definitely been in situations with Tordax where there's been like 10 to 12 creatures in the graveyard, and +10/+0 and Menace is kind of a must answer sort of situation. Okay. I think it's good. I think it's definitely like kind of one of toolboxy cards, but I definitely think you can get your 4 mana's worth out of this creature. What do we have next?
Never Happened. 2 and a black gets you a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand, and exile it. I think 3 mana is a little bit too much for Hand Disruption. I think Hand Disruption has to be 1 mana or 2 mana and random.
and 2 mana has to be like a very good take on that effect. So this, I do think it's interesting that it does double as Grave Hate, but again, like, this is quite a bit to ask. Next up, we have Severed Strands, which is 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrifice creature's toughness. Destroy target creature and opponent controls. Boy howdy. That's a lot of text on this. So we already have Bone Splinters, which is this for 1 mana less, but you don't gain the life. And that really isn't seeing a bunch of play. Does this get drastically better?
I don't think so. Maybe a sideboard for Aristocrat decks against Burn, but I don't really think it's that good.
But even then, like, the things you wanted to sacrifice to Bone Splinters are kind of small, right?
Right. That's the big problem. You're not sacrificing something and getting 10 life or anything.
Also, I'm just going to toss this out there. I don't like this card against burn, just for the sheer fact that you do need a creature to target with it.
Yeah.
All right. How about you take this last black card here?
Up next, we have Vicious Rumors. B. Vicious Rumors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card, then puts the top card of their library to their graveyard, and you gain 1 life. So, again, a lot of text. I actually like this card quite a bit. I don't know if it's good, but it's, again, very unique and does 4 things.
So weirdly enough, and I know I'm going to get flack for this, the first thing I thought when I saw this card was it reminds me of a very, very minimal version of Smallpox.
Yes, like I agree. I thought the same thing.
So I don't, for what it's worth, I don't think this card is good. I think most of the time you'd rather play Raven's Crime because that 1 damage and 1 life gain and milling your opponent for 1 doesn't seem like a huge upside to me versus versus the repeatable aspect of Raven's Crime. But I do like the fact that this is, like, again, a very complicated effect for common in most sets, and it does remind me of Smallpox, which is a good card. So it's got that going for it. I just don't think it does quite enough. All right. Yeah, let's get into red. So first off, we have Barging Sergeant, which besides having a delightful ring to it, is 4 and a red for a 4/2 haste mentor. I'm not loving a 5 mana aggro card.
No, it's not very good. What's next? Oh, I'm next.
You're next.
Up next is Cosmotronic Wave, which is a great name. 3 and a red gets you a sorcery. It deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Creatures your opponents control cannot block this turn. We have Electricity, I think Neff said.
And I don't think tacking a Falter onto it is really making it that much better. Also, I was kind of surprised that this was not a functional reprint. We've come very close to this exact effect, but we've never gotten this exact effect in Pauper, which kind of shocked me.
Speaking of shocking,
how would you like to see the weirdest riff on Firebolt that you've ever seen? This is Direct Current. It's 1 red. Direct Current deals 2 damage to any target, and then it has Jumpstart. So same total mana as Firebolt, 6 for the front and back half, but it's split a little bit more evenly, and you do have to pitch a card to this thing. What are your feelings on this?
I do not like it.
Is it the pitching the card?
It's Firebolt costs R the first time you cast it, so already got that going for it. And yeah, pitching the card.
All right, that's all fair. I do think that if this had been 3, would we be talking?
Yes, I think so.
All right, fair enough. How about you take it away with a weird Kiln Fiend riff?
Fire Urchin. 1 and an R gets you an elemental creature who's a 1/3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spells, Fire Urchin gets +1/+0 until end of turn.
It also has Trample.
Oh, yes, also has Trample. Thank you.
So
I'm not that impressed with it, honestly.
No.
I think +1 is a little too weak.
If it was +2/+0, would we potentially be talking about something here just because of the built-in evasion?
Yes, I think so.
All right,
Trample's not the best, though, because of Temur Battle Rage already, though. So
sure.
I don't think it would replace anything, but it could go into the Immolating Soul Eater deck.
Oh, okay, yeah. Something that's just trying to go as fast as humanly possible in mono red.
Yes. I think there it could be okay, because I don't think there's a lot of red creatures. Like, I think it's Immolating Soul Eater and Kiln Fiend, and that's been kind of it.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. Next up, we have Goblin Locksmith, which I think has some of my favorite art of any of the cards we're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
But Goblin Locksmith is 1 and a red for a creature goblin rogue. It's a 2/1, so you got a piker, and when it attacks, creatures with defender can't block this turn.
I think it's largely irrelevant.
I mean, it does. It's the super secret tech for the Freed from the Real matchup, right?
Yeah, Defender's Wall combo.
Yeah. This is not very good. I do adore the art on it, but it's just not good. What do we have next?
Next, we have Gravitic Punch. 3 and a red gets you a sorcery. Target creature you control deals deals damage equal to its power to target player. So it's kind of like Fling, and then it has Jumpstart. I think Fling's better, though.
I think Fling is better. This one is interesting. It's a little
Yeah.
bit pricey for its effect, but being able to kind of nug your opponent for a decent amount of damage doesn't seem like the absolute worst. I what I'm saying is, if I saw this across the table for me, I would be shocked but not offended.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
All right, next we have Maximize Velocity. It's a red mana for target creature gets plus a sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. And then has Jumpstart. I'm torn on this one because what is it? Reckless Charge exists.
Yeah, I think Reckless Charge is a little bit stronger.
This
even
one,
if it costs a little more.
I was gonna say this one does have the boon of being cheaper on the backside, but that +1/+0 is just less aggressive. So I don't think this is seeing play. What's next?
Up next, we have Ornery Goblin, who is a piker, 1 and a red for a 2/1 Goblin warrior. But when Ornery Goblin blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, Ornery Goblin deals 1 damage to that creature. So going to be good in limited, but I don't think good in pauper.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, this is a strictly better version of Kolaghan Aspirant from Dragons.
Also Goblin Piker.
Yes, it's significantly better than Goblin Piker.
What's up next?
Next up, we've got Rubble Belt Boar, which is a medium-sized pig. It's 3 and a red for a 3/3 boar, and when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I was not in love with this when it was on a piker in white in M19. I'm definitely not a fan of it being on a, what is this?
4 mana 3/3.
Yeah, is that Hill Giant or is Hill Giant Hill Giant's a 3 mana 2/2.
No, that's a Grey Ogre. 4
Grey
mana.
Ogre.
This is a Hill Giant.
Okay, this is a Hill Giant. God, early morning recording got me some type of way. All right, what's next?
Torch Courier, 1 for an RR with haste. 1 for R for a 1 with haste. God, early morning recording. Sacrifice Torch Courier. Another target creature gains haste till end of turn. So it's basically an upgrade to Goblin Berserker. It can give your other creatures haste. But again, I just don't think this is going to get played. It's not effective enough in Goblins. It's not effective enough in Red Deck Wins. If you really wanted to play this card in Red Deck Wins, you already have the other R1/1 for with haste from Ixalan. I can't remember the name right now. But you can stack it to deal damage, and I think that's just much better.
So I think I'd more compare this to what is it, the blood flow and bloodlust insider or something, the one from Amonkhet where it was a red for a 1/1, you could tap it to give something haste. Mm-hmm. And with this, I kind of prefer that over this because the Insider saw play for like at least a week, maybe 2 in a version of Kiln Fiend, and it was just there as a haste enabler. This thing is a haste enabler the turn it comes down, but I don't like attacking with this thing, and especially when we just compared Maximize Velocity, which is 1 mana to add a power to the board and give something haste. I don't know. This just seems worse than that.
Yeah.
Rounding out red, we have Wojek Bodyguard, which is 2 and a red for a 3/3 with Mentor, and it can't attack or block alone.
Red Deck Wins? Question mark.
I'd have to look at some of the lists to see how frequently they're likely to hit 3 mana, but if it had haste, maybe.
Yeah.
Like like tapping out in that deck for something that doesn't affect the board that turn just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Ready to get into green?
Yes, let's do it. Let's get into green.
First up, we have Dev Karin Dissident, which is a grizzly bear. 1 and a green for a 2/2. 4 and a green. Devarkin Dissident gets +2/+2 till end of turn. I don't think this is good.
That's a lot to pay for a 4/4. This is limited fodder, 100%.
Mana sink.
Next up, we've got Generous Stray, which is a nice little kitty. It's 3 and a green, or 2 and a green, sorry, for a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, it draws a card. So 1 more mana than Elvis Visionary and 1 more toughness. I think we earlier established that 1 mana and 1 toughness is not a good trade-off.
No, I don't. I love the card. Don't think it's very good.
All right, what's next here?
We've got Crowl Forgers. 4 and a green gets you a 4/4 Undergrowth. When Crowl Forgers enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. So I don't know. Tell me, Mike, is that good in Tordex?
Probably. So Tordex already tends to play Knot of the Bone, which is twice as much life, but it's stapled onto a instant. This one is recurable, and also conveniently is just like a 4/4, which is a pretty reasonable body in our format.
Is 5 mana too much, though, even in Tordex?
I think it might be. Tordex, like, generally gets to get a little goofy at its higher mana cost, because you'll see, like, the one-ofs of, like, real game enders at that sort of range. I'm thinking specifically of Horror of the Broken Lands, which usually gets in there as a singleton. I could see someone trying this out, or at least maybe having this as a sideboard card, just because it does repeatedly. You can start looping it very reasonably easily with Tortured Existence, so I could definitely see this getting into that list. I will say I think the deck that got the most out of this set is probably Tortured Existence. There's a bunch of fun cards for that deck.
Good.
But yeah, moving on, we've got Pax Favor, which features a very large dog in its art. It's 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, but it has Convoke. I think, didn't we talk about last episode Gather Courage?
Yeah, we did.
I think this is worse.
It's too much.
This is much worse. I'm not a fan. What's next?
Up next, we've got Pause for Reflection. 2 and a green, instant with Convoke. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Again, just don't think it's high impact enough, since we have other very high impact fogs in the format already.
Now, this one can be free. I don't know.
Quote unquote free. I don't think Turbo Fog plays any creatures.
I don't think Turbo Fog plays any creatures, but I could potentially see some type of. I could see this filling for a green deck a similar role to the flashback on Prismatic Strands. Obviously, the cost is higher, but being able to have no mana up and have a fog if need be.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's the long and short of it with me. Is this is vaguely similar to Prismatic Strands. It's much worse, but it has that through line. Next up, we have Porticulous Vine, which is a green for, or that's pronounced Portcullis, isn't it?
I honestly don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Portcullis. Portcullis Vine. It's a green for an 0/3 defender. 2 mana, tap, sacrifice a creature with defender, draw a card. I'm not enthused.
Me either.
All right, what's this last one here?
Vigor Spore Worm. 5 and a green. Gets you a 6/4 with Undergrowth. When Vigor Spore Worm enters the battlefield, target creature gets Vigilance and gains +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Vigor Spore Worm cannot be blocked by more than 1 creature. So, strong card, but 6 mana?
6 mana is a lot, but I have to imagine that you're similar to we talked about Moonmark Painter earlier. I think that this plays into some green X graveyard deck, probably green black, probably Tortured Existence. It is the very end game of a deck like that, but I do like it for what it's worth. Like, taking away either of those abilities, it's a little bit less worthwhile. But like, it's a reasonable body on its own. It can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, so it eats most things in the format, and it serves as like an abyss / some inevitability. And also, there's a chance that you can just cast this, put the Undergrowth trigger on something that's even mildly evasive, and just get your opponent.
Right.
I don't know. As you said, 6 mana is a lot, but I don't hate this. Let's get into gold. So there's a lot of gold cards in this set, like
Makes
a lot.
sense.
It's one of the hallmarks of Ravnica. It's one of the things that got us very excited for this set. And we're going to start stuff off with Artful Takedown. So it's 2, a blue, and a black for an instant. Choose one or both. And the 2 modes are tap target creature, and target creature gets -2/-4 until end of turn. I'm not thrilled with this. How about you?
I think at 4 mana it's a little too much. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too much mana for a little bit too little effect.
Pauper Electrolyze, dude. What are you talking about?
All right, there. What's next?
Up next, we have Darkblade Agent. 1 a blue and a black. It's you a 2/3. As long as you surveil this turn, Darkblade Agent is Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. I like it, but I think that there is a distinct lack of repeatable surveilling at common, so I don't think it will be very useful.
Also, it does very much irk me that this is like it relies on surveil as an action word, and I don't think surveil is going to be an evergreen mechanic.
No.
So it kind of bums me out that even if this is good, we've probably seen most of the surveil cards we're ever going to see. But if this was a little bit easier to enable, I would be super into this.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Notion Rain. Notion Rain is 1 a blue, a black. It's a sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. Notion Rain deals 2 damage to you.
I like this card.
Yeah. So Read the Bones already exists. This thing is a little bit harder to cast, but it does enable graveyard synergy.
Yeah, it lets you. It basically, instead of the scry, you get to put the cards in the graveyard, which I think in blue-black's case specifically is stronger.
Does this make it in Alchemy?
I think I would be very interested in trying it in that deck.
Because I don't think it gets you like the velocity of just binning stuff for an early angler, but I do think the fact that it draws 2 and lets you like this.
It might not be a 4x. But
it's. I don't think it's definitely not a 4x. I just like this as another option for the kind of the 3 mana card filtering / draw spot.
Yeah, I like the card.
Also, is it just me or does this art look like vaguely matrixy? Yeah.
No, it's not just you, dude. There's a person, in a trench coat, and then what appears to be lines of code falling from the sky.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's exactly supposed to be, but yeah, I immediately got very strong Matrix vibes. All right, what's next on this list?
Next we have Whisper Agent. 1, then a hybrid blue-black and a hybrid blue-black gets you a 3/2 creature with flash. When Whisper Agent enters the battlefield, surveil 1. Never have I been excited to fetch a creature with teachings until now.
Really? You're that high on this one?
I think it's good. I think it's a good finisher. It has like a pseudo card advantage mechanic. You can tutor for it with teachings. It can end the game. I think it's fine.
Oh yeah, I did just put all this together. Like it is a 3-power 3 mana creature with upside. I'm not sure if like a teachings deck wants this. I was talking with someone actually and did note that like in the traditional sort of style of teachings decks from days gone by, I'm not a big fan of this because it does have 2 toughness, and that doesn't play nicely with Even Cards Justice. But
okay, sure.
I don't know. This is definitely an interesting one. It's definitely going to be a favorite of mine in Limited. All right, Adrian, that time is here. We're moving into Selesnya cards. Your favorite part of the entire set. We've got some centaurs.
Sure.
So we're starting things off with Centaur Peacemaker. It's 1 green white for a 3/3, reasonable rate. Enters the battlefield, each player gains 4 life.
So what do you think of its effect being symmetrical?
I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, if this was like a pushed like 4/3 or something, I'd feel better about it. Like making it so that it's somewhat a drawback in exchange for a great creature, but a 3/3 for 3 is not blowing my socks off.
Okay.
All right.
It's a centaur though.
It is a centaur. What's next?
Up next we have Rosemane Centaur. 3 green and a white gets you a 4/4 with vigilance and convoke. Gonna have to hard pass on that one, Mike.
Really? The 4/4 body for reduced cost isn't going to get you there?
Quote unquote reduced cost.
I mean, so the optimal line with Convoke is this gets played on the same turn as creatures that have just come in. You tap them, convoke this thing out.
Yeah, in the green white tokens deck that already exists.
I mean, I see what you're saying. But yeah, I guess it's not thrilling. It's definitely a limited beast though. Next up we have Somalo Woodshaper, and this one's a very interesting one. So it's 2 green white for a 2/1. It's an elf druid. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or enchantment card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is another version of the Commune with the Gods effect, except this time it's stapled onto a 2/1.
I think that it's way too expensive.
That was kind of where I was leaning as well. Also, the fact that you can't play this in decks that are already playing Commune with the Gods, because a bunch of them tend to like the fact that it mills. I know that it's a perennial favorite in Tortured Existence, just to be able to dig to Tortured Existence. But yeah, this 4 mana just seems like a lot, especially with the 2/1 body that's not really doing much of anything.
Up next, we've got Vernati Shieldmate, 1 and then a hybrid white-green gets you a 2/2 with Vigilance. I don't think this is very good either.
No, I don't think that any of these Selesnya cards are making huge waves.
What's up next?
All right, so next up we're moving into the Golgari section, and the first one is a card that I misread the first time and thought was absolute gas. So Erstwhile Trooper is 1 green black for a 2/2 zombie soldier. Discard a creature card. Erstwhile Trooper gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. And that was where I thought the card ended. It does have the caveat you can only activate this ability once each turn.
So it's like Putrid Leech, kind of.
It's kind of like Putrid Leech. It's kind of, when I didn't see the only once per turn, I kind of thought about Vampire Hounds, which is occasionally seen play in graveyard black decks. I'm not super hyped about this.
No, I don't think it's that strong.
I do like the fact that it gains trample. That's a big deal as far as this goes. So if you are looking for this exact effect, like, I don't think you're going to get better than pitching a card to make your thing trampling and a 4/4, but it is what it is. Troll. It's not Lotleth Troll. That's a fair comparison there. All right, what's next?
Up next, we have Pitiless Gorgon, 1 and then a hybrid green-black. Hybrid green-black gets you a 2/2 with Death Touch. I don't think anyone's ever going to play this.
No, we've got other 3-mana Death Touchers that aren't seeing play either.
What's this next toy for? It looks like Tordex got a new toy.
Sure did. This is Rhizome Lurcher, and A, love the art, but B, it's 2 black-green for a 2/2 zombie fungus. And it has Undergrowth. It enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So we had a version of this in Undergrowth Scavenger way back in M15. And that one was a 0/0 and counted both graveyards. So there's pluses and minuses. I do like this as just like a big dumb old brick in Tortured Existence. Just casting this thing and being like, here's an 8/8. Figure out how you're going to survive this. I don't mind that. It's not a very smart question, but it is a question that needs an answer. Also, I do want to talk about the art. I love the art on this.
It's a very Mike card.
It's very creepy. Have you seen that movie The Ritual?
Yes, it's like that.
Yeah, that was immediately what I thought of.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. What's next?
No, dude, it's my favorite movie. What are you talking about? I'm kidding. Up next, we got Undercity Uprising, 2 a green and a black. Gets you a sorcery. Creatures you control gain Death Touch till end of turn. Then target creature you control, fight target creature you don't control. Very flavorful, but doubt it we'll see play.
Also, I'm not sure if you saw the social media ad that was going around with this. They took the art from this card and just put like a very nice sans serif typeface, and it just says Golgari Collection Fall 2018.
Oh, that's funny.
I thought it was funny. Yeah, this is like very weird. I'm not sure. It feels very much like a limited, like, I'm just going to bash you with everything kind of effect. And paying 4 mana for a piece of removal and like maybe making combat weird doesn't feel great.
Right.
All right.
Let's get into Is It.
Let's get into Is It. First things, Hypothesizzle, which is 3 a blue and a red for an instant. Draw 2 cards. Then you may discard a non-land card. When you do, Hypothesizzle deals 4 damage to target creature. What a bizarre card.
I think it's actually good, and I'm sure it will see play in some sort of red-blue creatureless deck that wants to win with 2/3 haste Minotaurs.
Yeah, I could definitely see it in some sort of like slower, dirtier control deck. This does kind of remind me of I know it's not like a 1-to-1, but it kind of reminds me of stuff like Prophetic Bolt.
Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Like it does the card advantage thing and also the removal thing. But
What do we think of this card in Tron?
in Tron,
It's too mana. I think 2 colors is too much.
2 colors might be a little bit tricky. And also, there is the fact like this is 4 mana or 5 mana. Excuse me. Like this is not an easy to cast spell. I don't love it in Tron, but this is one of the ones I feel is going to find at least its way into 1/5-0 deck. All right, what's up next? Because this is a riff on a very popular card for our format.
We got Piston Fist Cyclops. 1 hybrid blue red gets you a 4/3 with Defender. As long as you've cast an instant or sorcery this turn, Piston Fist Cyclops can attack as though it didn't have Defender. I think without the pump, it will not replace our favorite Abrupt Decayed friend.
Yeah, so in comparison to Nivix Cyclops, this is obviously much worse. That said, it does feel a little bit cheeky that they printed another 3/3 Cyclops with Defender that cares about casting spells, but I'm not enthused about this one. Yeah. Rounding out we have Sonic Assault, which is 1 a blue and a red for an instant. Tap target creature. Sonic Assault deals 2 damage to that creature's controller, and then it has Jump Start. Boy, howdy, that's a lot of text that doesn't really do much.
Yeah, let's just go.
All right. We'll let you delve into your favorite 2-color pair in Pauper. It's Boros.
First up, we got Fresh Faced Recruit. 1 and then a hybrid white-red. It gets you a 2/1. As long as it's your turn, Fresh Faced Recruit has first strike. Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, I would probably still say this is unplayable if it just was a 2/1 with first strike for 2.
That's not very good.
Don't think it's good. All right. Next up, we've got Garrison Sergeant, which is 3 red white for a 3/3, and it has double strike as long as you control a gate.
Pass.
Yeah, I'm not looking for this. What's the last of our Boros options?
Hammer Dropper. 2 red white gets you a 5/2 with Mentor. Again, don't think it's very good.
And especially like a 5/2 is such a fragile body to be swinging out with. I just really don't like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got 2 last things to discuss. And one of them is a cycle. And we're going to discuss the whole cycle because it's exactly the same, just with colors swapped out. So in original Ravnica, we had the Signets. In Return to Ravnica, we had the Clue Stones. And now in Ravnica 3 Tokyo Drift, we have the Lockets. And the Lockets are all formatted the same way. I'll read Boros Locket because it's the first alphabetically, but they're all the same just for the 2-color pair that corresponds to their guild. So Boros Locket is 3 generic mana for an artifact. Tap, add red or white, and then 4 hybrid Boros mana. Tap, sacrifice Boros Locket, draw 2 cards.
I don't like the cycle. I think it's the worst part of. I think the Clue Stones are better, which is something I never thought I'd say.
Really?
They cost less, right?
Clue Stones are 3. You pay 2 and you get a card out of it.
Oh, these are 2 cards. Okay, these might be a little bit better. I just don't like because Clue Stones are like unplayable and limited, almost.
I think these are much better in limited for what it's worth.
You know, the 2 cards is different. I thought it said 1. You said it, and I read it, and then I still thought it said 1. So yeah, 2 cards is much better. So okay, I'm willing to say these are better.
They're better than the Clue Stones, but like they're still like a significant step below the Signets in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, art on them is all nice, but you know, that only goes so far. All right. You want to take us on home on this very last card?
Up next, we've got a riff on Rupture Spire. It's called Gateway Plaza, but it is a land gate. Gateway Plaza enters the battlefield tapped. When Gateway Plaza enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you pay 1 generic. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color.
I mean, if you're really like playing some of those gate synergy cards, maybe.
We already have this card in Rupture Spire, and no one plays it.
Yeah, the actual land itself. If you had some sort of nutty gate synergy that you could pull off in Pauper, I'd say something different about this. But as it stands, this is kind of kind of disappointing at the very end. So that's the set. Also, I do want to mention the guild gates all got reprints. They look sweet. I'm definitely considering picking up some of them just because the art looks better, but that's kind of more of an aside. So, Adrian, I want to try something new for this set review.
Okay.
Both of us are going to pick out, let's say, 2 to 3 cards that we think are going to do well and see a result reported before the next set releases. And then next set, we will check in with how well we did on this prediction.
Okay.
Because for me, I think personally, Notion Rain, let's say Notion Rain, Rhizome Lurcher, and probably one of the other ones that I thought looked Tordexy. Oh, you know what? I'm also going to say Mood Mark Painter. Sure.
I was going to say Notion Rain and Mephitic Vapors.
All right.
Those are all black cards, though, which is kind of funny.
I mean, so black still gets pretty powerful effects. All right, so you're going with Notion Rain
and Mephitic Vapors.
Mephitic Vapors. All right, so folks, we will check in with these when the next set review rolls around, and we'll see if either of us were correct in the least. But just a fun little thing. So overall, this set seems like a step in a good direction, but a lot of the individual cards weren't quite powerful enough.
I agree. I think the set overall was actually not that as powerful as I was hoping it would be. Like even at the other rarities.
I think there's some real gems in here, but it was interesting. They did some very sort of odd design choices that I think are either going to pan out to be absolute genius once we play with the set, or really weird still. Like there's a whole cycle of uncommon dual color creatures where their mana cost is like the Izzet one is like blue red.
Yeah.
So they definitely played around with a bunch of stuff in this set, and I'm happy to see them experimenting like this. But yeah, definitely not the most impactful set for us, but more impactful than some recent standard sets, so I'm not going to complain. And we also touched on card complexity, and they're definitely getting pretty complex with what they're willing to put on commons. So I'm not going to complain. You got any other thoughts, or you want to take us out?
I'm ready to take us out. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today. This podcast is brought to you with the support of our patrons. Please consider supporting us if you like the show. Our patron shout-out today goes to Esculapius. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Check the list video or the description of this podcast for details on where to find us. We'd like to remind you, if you're listening to this on a platform with reviews, they're always appreciated as they boost our visibility. If you've got a deck list or idea for a topic, you can contact us either via our website or by emailing us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Special thanks to my LGS Pat's Games and Mike's LGS JP Comics, and of course L. He does our theme song Quantitative. You can find that song and other great tracks over at soundcloud.net/ELLELLELLELL. Till next week, this is Adrian and Mike, and we are signing off for Color Commentary.